Hello there. It's your favorite voice of nightmares speaking, and I have some very, very sad news. I don't know exactly when he did this, however, during the month of October in 2018, one of our horror narrators that went by the name of Spades of Death passed away due to suicide. Now, as someone out there who has wanted to commit suicide myself, I can tell you that depression is a very terrible matter. Not only that, it's not something out there that be cured so easily. As a matter of fact, for many people, depression could never be cured. Um, what I really want to say during this video, though, is that to those of you out there who believe that committing suicide is a good idea, that thinking that everything would be better off without you, people would be better off without you, and that you're not worth anything, I can tell you straight up right now that is not true. If you are feeling suicidal and having terrible thoughts about yourself or ever planning on doing something, even as of right now, I just want to tell you stop and go get help. This is a terrible, terrible tragedy for the entire horror community and even myself. So I decided that I want to apologize for the constant, I guess what they call blackouts and this cutouts in this video. The only reason why this is happening is because I'm using a power direct, and the audio can only record as long as the black picture up on screen exists. So I really want to get that out of the way. And what I've decided to do is I've decided to make a video in Spades of Death's honor. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading at the end of this video a couple of stories by who I'm assuming was his favorite creepypasta author, C.K. Walker. I'm only assuming this is because he has a playlist dedicated to C.K. Walker. And I'm pretty sure Spades of Death would appreciate it if someone, or better yet, our community, were to let him know just how appreciated he really truly was and how much we love him and miss him. So yeah, if you guys want to know anything more about Spades of Death, I'll link a video in the description below by a guy, I believe his name is Nihongo Johnny. He did an amazing tribute video to him, and I think it's a lot better actually even than mine. He knows a lot more about the story, he knows more about what happened, and he knew a lot more about Spades of Death than I did. So without further ado, here are the stories. Before I begin, I just want to say that there will be absolutely no music for the narration of these stories. I want to leave a moment of silence for our old friend Spades. Tom was my best friend when I was a kid. We bonded over a deep obsession of Jurassic Park and our subsequent passion for paleontology. We used to spend every weekend out in the woods excavating the forest floor for dinosaur bones. But one day, our parents wouldn't let us go. We heard the adults whisper about another body being found. After all these years, the whispers scared us and we agreed to play in the backyard instead. That was the day we finally hit pay dirt. After a year and a half of looking, we had finally found our first section of dinosaur skeleton. And in my backyard, no less. We hurried inside to tell our parents, but only my father was home. He was excited and agreed to take us to the university the next afternoon to present our findings, but we never went because Tom never made it home from school the next day. I was devastated, and we moved out of state several months later. I forgot entirely about the dinosaur bones in the backyard. Until today. This morning, my daughter came home from a weekend with Grandma and Grandpa. She said she hadn't been allowed to go outside because of some missing kids in the area. And for the first time since I was 9, I thought about the bones Tom and I found. And I wondered. It had promised to be an awesome day. My dad was finally going to take me deep sea fishing off the east coast of the island. Like most kids on the island, I wasn't allowed on the East Beach. It was for a stupid reason, of course. A mile out from the east shoreline, there was a 500-foot drop-off, an undersea cliff, and they didn't think it was safe for us. I think my dad agreed to take me to the East Beach because of the divorce. Both of my parents were trying to win custody of me. They wanted me to choose. I just wanted my family back. We made a plan to boat around the reefs for a while, snorkel, and let me practice my free diving. I had been working on it for a year, and I could already free dive down to 21 feet. I wanted to break the world record one day. We found deeper and deeper places for me to dive as we wandered around the unfamiliar reefs and sandbars. After we had finished exploring a sunken speedboat, I decided to sunbathe and snooze for a while. Dad got behind the helm to take us to our next location. I was awoken by the shrill ring of my dad's phone. He cut the engine so that he could hear the person on the other end of the line. I thought it must be his divorce lawyer because he decided to take the call below deck. I peered over the side of the boat into the crystal clear waters and saw that the ocean floor was about 30 feet deep. I wondered if I could free dive that. Then I heard my dad yelling below deck, and I realized he must be talking to my mom. I covered my ears. I didn't want to hear that. I decided to try the 30-foot dive just for a reason to get off the boat. I took several long deep breaths and dove into the lucid, sparkling water. I made it down 10 feet easily, and then 15. I struggled to 20, and then 25. I was doing it. I was almost there. I just needed to touch the seafloor, and I could claim victory. I was so close. Just a little more. I can make it. I can do it. My lungs began to burn, and I could feel the panic welling, and then I was there 30 feet down. I quickly braced my legs and pushed off against the seabed, jettisoning myself up toward the surface. My chest and my head were aching severely now. I swam up as hard as I could, hoping I hadn't made a terrible mistake. Darkness peeked around the corners of my vision. My arms and legs began to feel weak. This had been such a stupid idea. I was going to drown here. And then suddenly, I broke the surface. I took the deepest breath I've ever taken and tread water for a few minutes as I tried to recover. I'd done it. I climbed up onto the boat just as Dad was coming up the stairs. "Dad, I did it!" "Did what?" "I free dove down like 30 feet and touched the seabed, see?" I looked over the side of the boat. Oh, actually, it was only about 20 to 25 feet, I said quickly, but that's still a personal record. My dad raised his eyebrow and went to look over the side of the boat. I peered down with him. Oh, well, now it looks like it's around 15 feet. Never mind, I guess I frowned. Dad backed up from the bow and started shaking his head. Oh my God, he whispered. What? Sarah, we passed the drop off a quarter mile ago. But he started running for the wheel. Dad, what's wrong? I yelled, alarmed. I didn't understand. The seafloor was there. I touched it just a moment ago. I looked over the edge again. 5 feet. How is it that you can't remember, David? Because nothing happened. Someone died that day, didn't they? I've already told you, there was no murder. No one died. The one named Shaw braced his arms on the table in front of me and hung his head between his shoulders, mumbling to himself in obvious frustration. All right, said the other one, called McNulty. From a darkened corner of the small room, why don't you tell us what you do remember? Am I being arrested? No, you're being questioned. From McNulty. I've been here for 7 hours now. I want to go home. You can't go home, Mr. Lancer. Then I want my lawyer. Have you called the number I gave you? Christian Bennett's office? We can't reach him. Give me my phone and I will call him. We don't have your phone. I want to see my wife then. The one named Shaw slammed his fist into the table and then dragged his chair to the other corner of the room. He dropped down into it and kicked his legs up to rest his ankles on the doorknob and then pulled out a pack of smokes. You know, that's not an option, David. Why is it not an option? Do you really not remember? From McNulty. I've told you I don't know what you're talking about. What I do remember is you guys showing up to arrest me out of the blue. You aren't under arrest, David, Shaw said, through the cigarette between his lips. Tell me about the party. From McNulty. What party? The one we've been talking about all night, Mr. Lancer. I don't know what else you want to hear. Jen and I showed up on time at the restaurant. We met my son's fiance's parents. We celebrated Andrew's engagement for a few hours. We went home. Someone died. No one died. We ate, we drank, we paid the bill, and Jen and I left. How much was the bill? I don't remember. A little over $11. That's an awful lot of money for a dinner from Shaw. It was my son's engagement party. Your daughter-in-law's parents didn't chip in then? No, my wife and I are well off and they are not. We offered to pay. And your son didn't contribute either. Why would they? Andrew and his girlfriend have only just graduated from college. They don't have a lot of money. Has your son seemed interested in your finances lately? No. What has my son got to do with this? Why don't you tell me what happened after that? From McNulty. We went home and we went to bed. Tell us about the murder, David. From Shaw. I don't know how many other ways to tell you people this. There was no murder. Mr. Lancer, McNulty stepped from his dark corner, but didn't unfold his arms. He seemed to regard me with distant amusement. while Shaw stared intently through the rings of smoke. If this was a game of good cop, bad cop, it was obvious who was who. Did you see your son again that night? No, I did not, I said through clenched teeth. Why are you suddenly bringing up Andrew? Are you sure? From Shaw. Yes, I'm sure. I did not see him again that night. Did something happen to my son? Is that what you've been trying to say to me? Is Andrew... Your son is perfectly fine, Mr. Lancer. Perfectly alive, anyway, from McNulty. What is that supposed to mean? Are you sure you don't remember seeing your son again that night? I did not see Andrew again that night. But then, right at that moment, it became untrue. Andrew's face appeared in my mind's eye, and from a scene I couldn't remember happening, he had emerged from the dark, pale, and frightened, holding something that wasn't quite in the frame. Do you recall the murder, David? And then sound bled into the scene to a ragged breath from him, like tearing paper, a surprised utterance of his name from me, a burdened grunt, an unexpected crack in the darkness, and footsteps running up the stairs. I remembered it all suddenly falling away from me. Do you remember who died that night? McNulty asked, leaning against the wall next to the window. He was looking out of it into the darkness, into a world that I had failed to notice in my long hours there, or perhaps I'd tried not to, a world made only of sharp gray angles and raw white corners, a world without colors or curves. Yes, I think I do remember, I said, staring out the same window, waiting for a sun that should have risen hours ago. It was me.